the first one here. Just getting myself going. So I'm just gonna do some playing while people wander in. But nice to have you here. Thanks for making it through. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the live stream. This is number 29. And if you're just joining on for the first time, if you've never been to a live stream, welcome. If you've been to many live streams, welcome. Nice to see you again. My name is Benjamin Shepherd here at Bass with Benjamin. And I'm just having my oolong tea, getting my fingers warmed up with just something impromptu. And this is a space where we can just totally nerd out about bass playing. Anything to do with bass, all right? It's always different every single week, which I absolutely love. Different conversations, different playing, different vibes. It's all good fun. And so if you have any questions about bass playing, anything to do with bass playing, all right, whether it's gear, equipment, concepts, techniques, how the bass fits in music, maybe recording the bass, how do you record the bass, anything like that, pop it down in the chat and I'll do my best to address your question. But nice to see some people on here. Henrel, nice to see you again. Salvador, Groove Keeper, nice to see you. Whack-a-bass. And 2112. Yeah, hey, any instrument can be beautiful. I appreciate it. Especially with the 6-string bass, you can do a lot of amazing things with it, which is really cool. This is one of the reasons why I love playing 6-string. So many different textures and timbres that you can explore. And so Whack-a-Bass is asking, first of all, thank you. Is there a meter to this, or are you just playing kind of rubato? There is a meter, but I'm not thinking in terms of, okay, like, I'm not counting, all right? But I'm feeling a pulse, okay? You can hear that this is the pulse, right? There's something anchoring it, right? So really, you could just say it's just a 4. 1, 2. But because of the way that the chordal backing is accented and syncopated, it gives this kind of flowing kind of feel instead of it being so like on the downbeat, right? So if I was to play a bass line over this, see if I remember the root notes. Something a little more dictated, where I am going to play more downbeats, I can definitely do that. Right? I can do that if I want to, right? I can definitely go down, but like just leaving it open with the accompaniments kind of gives me freedom to interpret which way I want to go with it, right? Especially if I'm just going to be soloing and playing melodies over it. I want to be able to kind of have this free, like almost stretching the time a bit, playing over the bar lines. To kind of just flow over it like that and not just always have to be kind of bogged down to having to play it strictly always in time, you know. So that's something that you can definitely explore when you're just kind of coming up with tunes, right? Bass Forks, how you doing? And thank you. Any book you recommend on that kind of chords or harmony for bass? Absolutely. Well, it's not a book, but it is a video course, and it is my course called Bass Chords, the Ultimate Guide. And the link is down in the description box. And this is a guide, a course, just all about like my approach to playing bass chords, right? And I go through about 100 plus different bass chord voicings on the 4-string bass all the way to 6-string as well. So you don't just have to have a 6-string bass to be able to do this course. And it also comes with a PDF guide that has all the diagrams, all the chord shape diagrams that are covered in the course. So as well as the voicings, there's also I also covered the types of techniques and extended techniques and different applications you can use bass chords in, and where I've been able to use bass chords. So that's down in the description box down there. So that's what I recommend. So I hope you enjoy that. And for anyone who wants to learn bass chords and anything to do with bass resources, it's all in the description box down below. And I'll talk more about that a little later on. So my vocal mic's a little low, sure thing. It's the classic thing of like my bass is too loud. How's that? Is that better? My musical success journey? Help me get my vocal mics. I'm on my success journey too. Nice to see you though. Thanks for joining on. And I also recommend that just for the live stream, just the live streams in general, I definitely recommend listening, if you can, with some good headphones or speakers. And because definitely I play along to tracks and all that, and you're hearing my bass through the mic. You're getting the cabinet sound and the direct sound. And so I always recommend having some good headphones so you can really hear the true sound of it. Do a little more playing here. But if you're just joining on, welcome. And if you've got any questions about anything to do with bass playing, put it down in the chat and I'll do my best to address it. But always glad to see everyone here. I really appreciate it. John Axe, nice to see you. How you doing? Hey, who knows that tune? Who knows that tune? All the jazz nerds, or maybe not the jazz nerds know that tune. But that is a tune that I just absolutely love playing. It fits so well in bass because it uses fourths. He uses a lot of fourths, and fourths are our best friend, especially for bass players, since it's all all fourths. But nice to see people on here. John Axe, of course, my musical success journey. Nice to see you. I don't think I've seen you on here before, but thanks for joining on. Lomax, nice to see you. It's been a minute. And you say you're considering trying 7. Are you talking about a 7-string bass? And was curious about fretting technique. Is it more off to the side thumb placement on the neck to help save your wrist, consider improper in the long run? Well, I don't have a whole lot of experience on a 7-string bass. I've only messed around on them for like a few times. I've tried especially when Ibanez brought out the 7-string BTB bass, probably like 15 years ago now or something. That's when I really first tried a 7-string bass. And I actually have a video here on my channel from that moment as well. I was at the NAMM show years ago, and it was really cool. It was a really cool instrument. It sounded great. It played great, and so speaking from that experience, I didn't feel, other than like, okay, there's another extra string that I just have to get used to in terms of the way it felt, because it was a unwound high F string. And so it definitely felt like, like a guitar string on there, right? But from what I understand, you can also get a wound high F string. So I didn't. I felt pretty comfortable. I felt pretty at home on it. The neck didn't feel so like, oh my god, this is crazy. The way that I would probably, in my experience of when going from 4 and then to 5 string and then 5 to 6 string, it's just that that transition, that type of transition where it's like, okay, sure, the neck is going to be a little wider, depending on what kind of instrument you get, and there's another string to get used to. So obviously, that's another string of notes that you just need to get familiar with. So it definitely helps if you know your fingerboard quite well for all the other strings that you know, so that you can it can help you understand the notes of that extra string, right? And the other thing too is, which is great, because we're tuned in fourths, so a lot of your shapes, so whether you're playing chord shapes or just any kind of patterns or arpeggios, are going to be the same. It's not like on a guitar where you have that, you got the G and then you got the B string, you got that major third interval right there. So it's fourths and then a major third, and then it's a fourth after that. So in terms of doing your typical shapes, it's going to transition quite well. And just like with any instrument, it's just something you got to spend time with. So I don't think necessarily, and again, depending on what kind of bass you're looking at, I don't think it's a thing where like you can still apply the same technique that you've been doing this whole time, whether you're playing on a 6 string or a 4 string. All right. At the end of the day, just make sure that you're not hurting yourself, and especially on a newer instrument as well, something that's gonna be a little wider neck. Just make sure that you do take breaks and all that, because obviously your body and your hands are trying to get used to this new instrument. Make sure it's set up well as well, so that it's feels comfortable. You never want to fight with your instrument, whether it's a 4-string bass or a 7-string bass, right? But hey, when you get the 7-string, let us know what you end up getting. I mean, do you have any ideas of what 7s you were looking at? Because that sounds pretty exciting. I think the first 7-string bassist that I ever heard was Bill Dickens. And of course, if you don't know who Bill Dickens is, after this live stream, please go check out Bill Dickens. Bill is an incredible virtuosic bassist, to where like even when Victor Wooten saw this dude play for the first time with Ramsey Lewis like in the 80s, he fell over laughing because he couldn't believe what he was hearing coming out of his television speakers, because of like what this dude was playing was just like what I've never heard. And it's crazy. This dude's playing a 7-string bass, and he's doing the crazy slap chops on it. He's just totally shredding, but he also has like a deep musical sense, groove and just musicianship. And he's such a lovely guy as well. I met him one time in LA. He was passing through. He lives in Chicago, but he came through LA, and he came through a jam session that I was playing at, and he got up and played, and and I was like, oh my God, it's Bill Dickens. Oh, he's going to play. Because he was a huge like influence on me when I was a teenager, when I was going through, you know, the Victor Wooten stage and all these cats. But Bill was like, whoa, this is another cat who's just absolutely insane. And getting to see him play and do his thing, it was just like, wow, it was just ridiculous. And through Bill, discovering Bill is how I also discovered AccuGroove, because Bill was a big AccuGroove player. And especially because he plays with a lot of power, a lot of notes going on, and he has a lot of things going on. And so the AccuGroove cabinets were able to absolutely handle all of that he was throwing at it. So that's how I got into AccuGroove, because I was like, oh, these actually look pretty cool. And if someone like Bill Dickens is playing it and getting that kind of sound, then, you know, this might be something for me. And it has. And it's been a great, 11-year relationship with this cabinet right here. And also you'll see Mark Wright, who is the owner and the designer at AccuGroove. He also jumps in on here on the live streams. And if you're there, Mark, hope you're doing well. And yes, Bill Dickens was using the Conklin basses back then. So incredible cat. Nick Granville, how you doing, man? Good to see you, bro. I hope you're doing well. Incredible guitar player. Yes, that was Maiden Voyage that I played earlier, which is just such a fun tune. Definitely can be a little challenging at times, because it's just all these like sus chords, minor 11 chords in in terms of the movement. Going up in this like minor third, progression. And then from here down a whole step down there. And so that tune can be a little challenging, just to really get some good, ideas coming through. But it's definitely a nice one to really, think out of the box in terms of not playing a typical 2-5-1 kind of language over that. So yeah. And yeah, you're right, Desert Cruiser. 7 strings usually will have a tighter string spacing. Indeed, that's definitely been the case with a lot of the 7 strings I've played. Whether it was the Ibanez ones, or I've even played Melvin Davis's 7-string Ken Smith, which is a huge. I mean, that thing is heavy. It's a solid bass, but very, very comfortable to play. And Melvin's a big dude. He's really tall. He's got huge hands, so that bass looks, it looks pretty small on him. And so you would think, that bass is just designed for him, for his playing and for his physique. But even when I had a go on it, it played so nicely. It's Ken Smith, incredible top quality instruments. So yeah, but generally more strings, the string spacing is going to get a little more tighter, so it's just going to be more accommodating. Quick Curls, how you doing? Have you ever been through burnout, and if so, how have you handled it? Yeah, definitely been through some stages of burnout, and feeling overwhelmed, and just feeling that's things are really hard. The thing that's is really important, and I always have to remind myself this too, and is that if you need to get help for anything in general, and we have access to a lot of things, a lot of tools, resources, whether it's talking or just taking a break or just researching something, that would be the best place to start. And when I've recommended this to like fellow friends and colleagues and all that, and sometimes I find myself, I gotta in the moments that I've gone through that, I need to sometimes also just take my own advice as well to remind myself, and it's also a good idea to just listen to your body, all right, when it needs to take a break. And I'm not talking about like, if you've been practicing for a long time, even just like from a lot of intense stuff that you're doing, if you're putting yourself through continuous stress, and I know there especially these days, things are definitely tough. Things are expensive. We're trying to, get the money, right? We're trying to make things happen. But it's hard to do that if you are not on your game, if you're not feeling 100%, right? And people who, if you're a musician for hire, people can pick up on that. And I've seen it where it's been the case with, some of my peers and colleagues where they've burnt out, but they've been trying to make it through a gig, and it's been tough for them, and to where like the gig couldn't have been the way that it could have been, and because this person is trying to do too much, not in terms of playing, but like trying to just do too much in their life, right? And so sometimes you just got to step back and take a break, take a rest. Sometimes that even means, like just let's take some time away even from the instrument as well, all right? It doesn't mean that you're gonna, and my students know this, and I always encourage my students to practice, to play their instrument every single day. All right, do something. But there is also a thing that I tell them, like, at the end of the day, you still got to listen to your body. You got to listen to yourself. If you need to step back for a little bit, all right, even just for like a couple of days or whatever, just to kind of just to reset, to recharge, then do that, right? That's really important. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. There's nothing wrong with rest, all right? If we're constantly hustling and just going, it takes a big toll on our minds, our bodies, and it's hard. It makes things difficult. And I've seen this, and I've experienced it myself. I've seen this with my peers where they have a tough time, but even though they might be saying like, oh, everything is okay. And I've done that too. But you really got to listen to yourself, all right? That's a big thing. And then you can start looking at re-emerging again, all right? Re-emerging to like, okay, let's just pick up where we left off. But also take into account, what was the thing that gave me burnout? Maybe I don't need to do that as hard as I needed to, all right? How can I still achieve the thing in a more efficient, streamlined, and joyful way without having to feel so stressed and having to like feel like I'm in competition all the time? You know what I mean? I'll give you one example for me was definitely earlier on in my 20s in Los Angeles. I'm coming up trying to work my way up on the music scene, the gigging scene, as being one of the cats to be hired. And as I was getting gigs, I'm saying yes to every single gig, all right? Because definitely, for a number of reasons, I wanted to play, okay? I just wanted to play with people. I wanted to play music. And also, I had bills to pay, all right? It's like I needed the money. And so saying yes to every single gig. And if you live in a place like Los Angeles where you have to have a car, you have to drive everywhere. So this meant I was saying yes to gigs that were in Hollywood or in downtown LA or in Santa Monica all the way on the west side, or saying gigs to do something that's down in Orange County. And that means you got to sit in traffic, you got to drive through traffic, you got to drive long distances, you got to do all kinds of things. And at the same time, I'm doing these gigs and I'm going to like jam sessions and I'm going to other gigs because I'm still trying to like network and like make a name for myself, make myself known. And sure, I had the energy at the time to do that, but it was still hard and it was expensive to do that. That's the thing. And I definitely wouldn't be able to do anything like that now, and I wouldn't want to. That's just me. Some, other people might be like, yeah, I've wanted to do that kind of thing. That's great. Just take care of yourself. All right. Everyone knows what their limit is, but it definitely burnt me out. I'm doing all these gigs, and especially you realize that I'm doing all these gigs and they're not paying a lot of money as well. Right? And so then you start to understand, and I mean, I wish this is something that was taught in music schools and just definitely taught earlier on, is that is what you should be getting paid. And that's, us musicians, doesn't necessarily, it doesn't matter our skill level or the experience that we have, but when we play music, we bring a lot of joy to a lot of people who are listening and watching us. All right. Just like how when we watch television, anything, it's definitely it's a form of entertainment. And so we deserve to be paid well. All right. We deserve to be treated well. That's, just like anybody, right? But if I'm talking about musicians for hire, we deserve that. We really do. I'm a big believer in that. And so it got to the point where I'm doing all these gigs. It's not paying a whole lot, but I get to play. And then it's starting to kind of almost, in a sense, start to outweigh itself, right? That's the thing, is that I'm doing this, and I could see how, some people can get stuck in this perpetual thing of feeling that like you can't go anywhere else with it, right? And for me, eventually it got to a point where I started becoming a top call bassist in LA. I started getting on the sub list for the cats, people for like Jimmy Haslip, Abe Laboriel, Jerry Watts, Jimmy Earl, Reggie Hamilton. I started being on their sub list for the gigs that they usually play, and so that became a thing. And then as I worked my way up, I was able to have my own sub list of bassists that I could call for when I couldn't do a gig, or if I needed to not do a gig. And this is the thing that I learned, is that I'm eventually coming back around to, is it got to a point where I realized, if you're in a situation where you can say no to a gig, then that's okay. You don't have to take every single gig. I was definitely doing it for many reasons, like I mentioned, but also because I thought it was a competition. All right. If I'm playing all the gigs in town, everyone's going to see that I'm the guy, I'm the cat. But it was kind of a mess. Fun, but definitely it was hard. And I was driving a car that was just nuts. It was a 92 Honda Accord station wagon that had like 300,000 miles on it, because I had driven that up to Canada and back as well. My sister lives up there, and I'd been driving it all over LA every single week. You're driving to Palm Springs, you're driving up to Ventura. you're putting a lot of miles. So, and that car, I ran that car into the ground, and it was a stick shift as well. So sitting in traffic in a stick shift, and the air conditioning didn't work in the car as well. So that was fun, especially during the summers, 100-degree heat, windows down, and yeah, it was interesting. But by the time I sold that car, I sold it for like $500 to a body shop, and there was no clutch left in that car. There was like nothing. You wouldn't engage or anything. So, but yeah, definitely. Definitely, I burnt out my car, and I definitely got burnt out as well. So that was it. Wackabay, when is your next gig in LA? I'm not sure. I'm to be clear, I'm not in LA. I've been spending most of my time down here in New Zealand, and so you could probably say like, hey, if he's in LA and it's summer there, why is he wearing a cardigan? Well, because in New Zealand, it is winter, and it was 34 degrees this morning. So that's why it was absolutely cold. So that's the thing is, yeah, there's always lots of gigs going on in LA. And when I was, right up until I left, I was playing there absolutely, almost every night of the week, whether it was at the Baked Potato, or playing at the Blue Whale, or playing Gold Diggers, anywhere of these places. There was definitely a community. And exactly, Mr. Nick Granville, paying your dues, that's something that's, and this is a thing, is like, what if we didn't need to pay dues? What if we just got the things that we needed as musicians, like great pay? We had backline at every place that we played. We were provided food and all that, and what if things didn't necessarily need to be hard? And that's something that I always think about, and it's another reason why I've put together, and you're gonna be like, oh, here we go, but this course, and it's a free course, okay, for this particular reason, and you'll see it down in, yes, Hamish Smith, exactly. What if we didn't need to pay taxes? There we go. Hamish Smith, who's a young bassist, incredible upright bassist in New York, and exactly. What if we didn't need to? But what I'm saying, so I have a free course that's down in the description box that is about. It's essentially my 6 tips on what I did to, get better gigs. And also I've put in some tips on how you can, make your bass lines a little more tastier and all that, just some tips. But it's all wrapped in together. Essentially, I've put together this course because there were lessons that I learned the hard way, and that were not fun, that were not pleasant, and I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that, especially someone who's coming up. I wouldn't want someone to, well, if I had to go through it, then you got to go through it. No, what if you don't need to? That's the thing. So I put together this free course that helps you prepare yourself for what you need to do, like do's and don'ts and etiquette and all that, the things that you should take into account to be a professional musician, if you want to really level yourself up. And these eventually led me to being able to get gigs and start playing with people on a very high level, like Peter Erskine and Lee Ritenour, Dave Weckl, who has Billy Childs, Lauren Desberg, Nikki Harris, so many other people that are on my resume and that I've been able to record with and ever, so that's the thing, is that I have this free course to help you guys, and that's what I do here at Bass with Benjamin. This is why I do these live streams as well, so that, if you have questions about anything, to the best of my knowledge and expertise, I can help you out. That's what I'm here to do. All right. And my wife here, Tara Davis, saying, yeah, community and family support. That's the other thing too. When you're feeling burnout, just reach out to the people that you know and you trust and that you love and that love you as well. This is huge. Have a mentor, you know, like people that you look up to, all right? People that are going to check on you, all right? You don't always need to be prompting them, but people who are going to be thinking about you. Those are the people that you want to be around. And I'm, very fortunate to have quite a lot of those people in my life and who have helped me become the musician that I am today. It's definitely important that you're not on your own. You're not trying to tackle all of this by yourself. All right. That's the thing. Yeah, I know, Nick, that would be, but hey, never say never. That's the thing. I keep asking Ibanez, hey, when you going to bring out the groove line again? And they're like, yeah, it's never going to well, this is the thing. They say, not anytime soon. I'm not sure, but never say never. That's the thing. That's how I always like to look at it, is that anything is possible. All right. It really is. From, hey, maybe musicians don't need to pay taxes. Hey, maybe I'll play with Stevie Wonder next week. Hey, anything, right? Hey, maybe I'll grab a 7-string bass, right? Anything is possible. That's the thing. And I don't know about in Ireland, but that's cool. That look at all the musicians that place has created. Exactly. Yeah. So really cool. Quick curls. Have you stopped playing for a long period of time due to burnout or for any other reason? I've definitely had periods of where I've definitely felt uninspired to play just because of, personal things going on. And, but I always had the instrument and music in my mind. But there's definitely times where I've gotten to a point where like, oh man, my chops ain't really up to scratch or whatever. I've definitely had moments like that. And lately I've had moments like that with the upright bass, because I've definitely been putting a lot more attention on the electric bass, but I've been getting the upright bass back up to scratch, and which has really been great. But when I was gigging in LA, I was playing both and practicing both a lot. And really I had that stamina and that energy on both instruments, that, okay, whatever instrument you want me to play, let's go. That kind of thing, So yeah. But again, sometimes, like, just going back to what I was saying, sometimes you just got to take a break, step back for a bit, and that's okay. It really is. All right. At the end of the day, the music, the soul of the musician, the artist, will always be in you. We use these as tools. And when you think about it, we can get better. If you're thinking about, I need to get better on my instrument and all that, you can do that at any time. You really can. You just have to put in the time to do it, right? And we see that, when we play our instruments and when we practice something, okay, yeah, we get better at it. That's what we've been doing. Amongst other things of, like, sure, having someone to guide you, like a, mentor, or just having musicians to play with or whatever, who are better than you, to kick your butt and really take you another level. And, I see Steve Weingart down there, and he's one of those cats who I've learned a lot from on the bandstand. And nice to see you, man. And he's going, 7-string bass, lol. If anyone could have you making it swing. See, this is the thing. Steve has played with some of the absolute world's greatest musicians, and if we're talking about bass, the greatest, some of the greatest bassists ever. All right, from let's see, Stanley Clarke to Patitucci, to Tom Kennedy, obviously, in the Dave Weckl bands. Jerry Watts, Jimmy Earl. There's so many I can name, and I'm like totally spacing because it's such a lot of people. But maybe Steve, if you could put a list of the bass players that that you can remember down in the chat. But it's a lot. But being on the bandstand with Steve, I mean, it's like that forces you to, especially if a musician of that high of a level of playing and experience and expertise, it forces you to do it, to keep up. It forces you to really just, they're gonna just go without me, and I gotta hang on and pull my way up. It's like a big, plane taking off, and you're attached to like a cable at the end, and it's just gonna go, and it's like you're trying to get onto the plane. And so you're pulling yourself up through that cable as the plane is taking off and it's flying into the sky. And eventually you can get onto the plane and be like, okay, I can keep up now. You know what I mean? I've also played with Ben Shepherd. Oh, so you played with the bassist from Soundgarden, Ben Shepherd, that guy, which is hilarious, finding that out. That's why I go as Benjamin J. Shepherd, so that there's no confusion, because I've definitely had emails from people or direct messages or even comments on some of my videos over the years like, wait, is that the Ben Shepherd from Soundgarden? Right? I absolutely love that song. I really love that. If my wife is saying burnout is probably not from your instrument or music, it's probably about not getting the things in life that would make things easier and more enjoyable. Exactly. We need more love, attention, and support than we think. Exactly. That was the thing, is when I was doing all these gigs, driving around, playing whatever, I'd have to put on a suit and tie or whatever, and carrying gear and everything, especially upright bass, up several flights of stairs, loading it in and out of your car. I'm doing all that. Sure, I'm playing music, yeah, but like, what's the overall joy in life that was happening to me? It was like there wasn't. That was the thing that was hard, So that's how the burnout came. So if you don't have any other aspects in your life of, whether you have hobbies or something, something that's non-musical, any other things that give you joy and enjoyment and fun, then it's going to make things harder. That's the thing. So my wife totally nailed it right there, as always. And that's the thing, I've learned and continue to learn so much from my wife. And she was someone who showed me that, right? And she has a whole history and experience of from within her career. She knows all about this. And, these are, you'll definitely be hearing more from her soon. In terms of her experience. She's a very accomplished musician, artist, person. I mean, she's this is someone that's I'm like, no one has shown me so many things about life than she has. She's also one of my greatest teachers. That's the thing, right? So Nick, I'm still trying to learn stuff from my wife. Hey man, you listen, you will learn a lot. That's the thing. That's something that I find. Jose Blackman, nice to see you, man. And thank you so much. Hey man, you're a beast of a bassist too. The first time I saw you play, when I was a freshman in Cal Arts, and you were playing the salsa band, and man, the groove and the pocket you just held that together, especially on the electric upright. I don't think it was a baby bass. I think it was the Azola bass, the Steve Azola baby bass, and the sound that you got from that is incredible, man. So that was always such a treat. just seeing, you know, like hearing the language and the music and, you know, the culture. I mean, just emanating from you, man. So really cool. And it was also cool to see you, like, because I'd mainly seen you play that music, but there was a few times I got to see you just playing like some straight ahead jazz, you know, just swinging like just on acoustic, upright, man. You just killing on that as well. So really cool, man. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, this is I just want to. This has been really cool. You know, we haven't really talked about, you know, and this is a really great question. So I appreciate it. Who was that who had asked that? That was Quickie Curls. So you know, thank you for that. Yeah. Lomax is asking that Stanley album with Vulcan Princess. So yeah. Oh man, that's such a great. I gotta listen to that one again. I really do. Sasha on bass, how you doing, man? Nice to see you. And been enjoying your videos that you've been putting out. And man, also it's such an incredible player too, Sasha. So really, it's always great to see you on here. And I recommend bassists or anyone here, check out Sasha's content. Has some really cool, like, you know, analytical stuff of playing of various players, especially modern players, which is definitely really helpful. And definitely, I've learned quite a lot from that too. So it's just nice to see a lot of, you know, players, musicians, kind of, you know, also digging into the history of things, of how the bass works and all that, which is really great. And so keep it up, Sasha, man. We're really great stuff. Nikki Granville, all right, bro. Take care, man. Say what's up to the cats over at Music Works. You know, say what's up to them. And take care, man. I'll talk to you soon as well. All right. I'll message you later. So yeah. So cats, I want to also let you know, if you again look down in the description box, all my Bass with Benjamin resources are there. But I'm now offering 30-minute bass lessons, 30-minute straight to the point lessons. Okay, and this is something that for some time people have been asking me, because as most of you know, I do a lot of my lessons are either like an hour long, you know, one-off, one-on-one, or a bass coaching mentoring program, which is definitely the one that a lot of people are with when they come to me for lessons, and which is I just absolutely love. But some people don't have time to, you know, do like a whole thing. They just want to get like a one-off thing, maybe to just get an immediate answer to something in particular. And so that's why I'm offering these 30-minute bass sessions, lesson sessions, where essentially we can just get straight to the point on anything about bass. Any question, any topic, anything you want me to show you how to play something, you want some advice or opinions or counseling on careers or anything like that, or maybe you just want to play for me. You know, you just want to like, hey Ben, you know, here's some tunes that I just wrote, or this is what I've been working on. I just want to play for you and get some feedback. Absolutely, we can do that for 30 minutes. All right. There's also an option too where we can do a 30-minute session, and then after the session is done, you can send me something to listen to, and get some feedback on that as well. So that I'm now offering that, which is really exciting. So if you just want to get a quick lesson, just like straight to the point, where you just, you know, we start the timer. All right, we got 30 minutes. Let's get into it. Whatever you want to do, I'm really excited about that. So you can sign up for that down in the description box over there. Whether you want to do just a 30-minute session or the 30 minutes plus feedback after the session. So definitely sign up for that. It would be great to work with a lot of you on your bass journey. And that's what I love doing here at Bass with Benjamin. And so that's there in the description box amongst all the other stuff that I have available. A little bit of G7 altered there. Oh, sorry. There we go. And again, if you got any questions or anything, we've been having some great deep talks here already. But you got any questions? Put it down in the chat. Altered scale. So definitely interesting is that so I definitely look at okay, so let me just let's put a pad on. Let's do this. So I'll just loop a kind of free pad, just of just the chord. Right? So the way that I would approach something like this is just like, okay, first of all, you got to know what the scale is, right? So if we're looking at, in this case, I'm playing G7 altered, which is like, okay, you know, we've got a dominant 7 in there, and this is the scale where let's throw in all the alterations, yay! Okay, so meaning that, okay, sure, we got the root, the 7th, dominant 7, but we're also going to have a flat 2, and then we're going to have a sharp 9, and we're going to have a major 3rd, right? So, okay, in there we can get a shell voicing of just a G7 chord, right? Or just a dominant 7. Sasha's like, yeah. So that's the thing. Now it's like, okay, now we need to approach the other notes that are in there that kind of make this sound. So then do it at a little bit of a time, okay? So obviously we have so let's put in the flat 9 in there, right? Just adding that flat 9 already, okay, we're starting to get the essence. It just adds the thing, especially when you go root, flat 9 to the major 3rd, right? So, okay, let's continue to add more. Let's put in that sharp 9. And that's the other thing too. It's just like, okay, well, starting on this F, which is the dominant 7, I already have, you know, like I've got a diminished triad there. Or I can do like this kind of step up thing. Just in there, you know, you get music, you get melodies just from those. And we still haven't talked about the rest of the notes, all right? Okay, let's throw in some sort of fifth in there as well. So already, you know, when I put in this flat 5, you know, I can play obviously a really I can play a diminished fifth, a diminished triad. Let's keep going. Let's put in the well, sorry, that's essentially that's going to be raised fourth. But let's put in the sharp 5. There's something familiar right there. Very whole tone. Okay, so we got like some whole tone action going on. And this is the other thing too. It's just like, okay, what about just some other triads that I can do in there? I could play an E flat major triad in, let's say, in first inversion. So instead of going, right, I can go, right? And this is the other thing too. I can play both, if you wanted to do it as like triad pairs. I have both a E flat major triad and I have a D flat major triad. So if I was to do it as I can play those two triad pairings in there if I wanted to. All right. And this is the thing. Is that sometimes I want to play that C in there, but in terms of like approaching or just working on like the altered scale, that's how I've gone about it in the past. Is definitely finding, okay, yeah, what are some triad pairs? Obviously there's more in there, but the ones that are obvious to me is definitely And so then that's the thing. Yeah, you start to then the things that you already know on the instrument in terms of like how you play over like a major 7 chord or a minor 7 chord or dominant chords or whatever. Then you could start to like implement that into these more challenging sounding scales and chords. in a way, because if you hear a chord, you can then and understand the notes that make up the chord, then you can start to put together, hey, let me put together the obvious things that I can hear that actually do work over it. And so for me, like I said, those two triad pairings right there, the D flat major and the E flat major, as well as an F diminished triad and a G diminished triad as well, which is really cool. So that's definitely a way of how I approach it and how you can approach it too, in terms of doing something like that. So yeah. Thank you, Sasha, once again, putting me on the spot for like, hey, altered chords, diminished, hey. It's like, let me really put on the nerd glasses and make sure I know what I'm talking about. So that's the thing. But yeah, the triads are definitely a really great way to really explore any type of chord. And this is the cool thing. Like, say, for example, if we go back to like a major 7 chord, let's just do a major 7 chord, but I'm gonna just play a C bass pedal note. All right, so I'll just do like a C groove. All right, we've got that going. So now I'm going to play these 2 triad pairs that are going to emphasize C major 7 sharp 11. So C Lydian, right? Obviously, the first obvious triad is going to be C major, right? Right? And you can do it in all its inversions, right? Ran out of frets there. This only has 22 frets, not 24. My other 6 string has 24 frets. So when I want to play that octave, I just play the harmonic of where the 24th fret would be. Right? So we have that. Now, if we want to really get into the Lydian sound, then now obviously with Lydian, we're going to have a sharp 4. So obviously that sharp 4 is going to be that. Now, what's a major triad that is going to be diatonic to our Lydian chord that's going to have that F sharp in there? Well, it's going to be D major, right? So I can play C major and D major, right? Right? And right there, you have that's the Lydian sound just from using triads. Obviously, I'm putting some notes in there, like a B natural that is not in a C major triad or in a D major triad, but you can see how by using those 2 triads, you can connect the ideas. You have these notes that still fit in. Right? Which is really cool. Now, if I wanted to do, I should keep that on actually. If I want to do, let's see, C7, all right? C dominant 7, right? So obviously I'll take C major, but then we can go down the other way a whole step, right? With a major triad. So we can now go to B flat major, all right? So obviously we have C major. All right, so get the Lydian sound out of your head, okay? We're not doing C major 7, we're gonna do C dominant 7. Now, let's go to B flat major. Ah, you hear that? Makes it like a sus chord, a C7 sus, because that B flat major, where we land on that F, is the sus 4, or the 11. Ah, sorry, I messed up. Right? So that's something that to try out is is on a C dominant 7, play a B flat major triad and a C major triad. C major 7, play a C major 7 triad and a D major 7 triad. That's how you can unlock like the sounds and the essences and really expand further just from the use of triads. I mean, this is essentially what like someone like Patitucci does in terms of navigating like chord changes, but on top of like the jazz vocabulary language that he has acquired and transcribed from John Coltrane and Michael Brecker and Pat Martino and all, you know, his, you know, biggest inspirations, you know. But it's also, you can break it down into the simplest forms of like, hey, let's just do a triad. And triads are so cool. This is a reason why people, you know, Gary Burton, Steve Swallow, Keith Jarrett, Pat Metheny are huge on using triads in their music, right? If I was to take a Pat Metheny tune, like the middle section of his tune called Cirebon, you know, which starts off as just an A major triad. Right? But just that whole sound. And then with someone like Keith Jarrett utilizing, utilizing a triad with a different bass note, right? So say, for example, if you have... well, let's go back to the case of, you know, where, okay, if we have a B flat major triad, let's see, let's do it. I'm going to do it in second inversion, right? Second inversion B flat major triad. But let's put the C in the bass. You know, that's another way of writing C7 sus4. And that's something that Pat Metheny, I remember he mentioned, is that, you know, when you're playing, that's just when you're playing these like slash chords, you know, a triad with something else in the bass, it's just another way of writing some sort of seventh chord, right? Without having to spell out all the extensions, especially, and this is how I approach, and I talked about this last week, like when playing something like, where essentially if I want a piano player or a guitar player to play a specific voicing of a certain sound, because that's just the sound that I've been doing on the instrument, I'll write it out the way that I'm doing it. So by using slash chords. And so that's a great way of, you know, getting a piano player or a guitar player to really to play it however you'd like to do it. I remember when I was playing, it was actually my wife and I were this was a few years ago. We had a gig at the Blue Whale with our band, and, you know, we have our original music, and, you know, I wrote out the charts and all that. And on this gig, we had John Beasley playing keyboards, we had Gene Coy on drums, and we had Bob Reynolds on saxophone. My wife was singing, I was playing bass, obviously. But I remember with on the charts, and on John Beasley's chart in particular, I saw him rewriting the minor chords. All right, whenever I had a minor 7 chord or minor 11 chord, I just wrote it as, like, say C minor 11, right? Because the way I'm playing it on the bass is this voicing. 1 without the third, 1 5 minor 7 11. That's how I was writing, and I just figured, okay, yeah, I'll just tell a piano player or guitarist, just play minor 11 or minor 7 chord. But no, he wrote it because he wanted to get the voicing that I was doing, and he could hear. He wrote it as, so something like this, which I see as C minor 11, he wrote it as a G minor, a G minor 7 chord with a C in the bass. And I was like, oh, man. Okay. So he said, yeah, because that's what I'm hearing you play. So I want to play that too, because I'm assuming that's the sound you want. So that's what I figured. I was like, okay. So I started doing that. And Steve Weingart knows a lot because he's read a lot of my charts where he's had to play a lot of 11s and sharp 11s and all that. So he knows firsthand all of that. And speaking of music, Sashi had another question, and I just want to make sure, and I know Steve also had a question here. We'll get to Steve. It's not exactly a bass question, but might you have advice in memorizing things? You just ripped that Stanley song, and I suspect you didn't prepare that. Well, this is a good one, Steve. I mean, because I would ask you the same question of, like, you know, when we played with Dave Weckl, I don't remember you looking at any charts, and I know some of the tunes we played, you'd obviously played with Dave in the past, and at least one of the tunes was your tune, so of course you're going to know that. But when we did that Chick Corea tune, Lifeline, which had a lot of everything, you know, I was reading the chart, but you weren't. You had memorized that. That was insane, right? But in terms of memorizing stuff, I think because I've listened, if we're talking Stanley Clarke in particular, because I've listened to that and played along with it so many times, and we're talking like almost 30 years at this point, it's just ingrained. Even if you've been listening to a piece of music for a very long time and you've never really played it before, there's still a way that you know how to play it, right? My wife knows so many songs that she's never performed before, but there's so many songs that she just knows the words to because she's heard it so many times, right? And so it's like that when, you know, like last week, somebody asked me to play the Janet Jackson, or Stanley Clarke version of the Janet Jackson tune, Funny How Time Flies When We're Having Fun. And I'd never played it before, but because I've heard it so many times, I know what you know, it does help having perfect pitch. So chord recognition. So I know after, you know, hearing that almost my whole entire life of understanding what the chord progression is and also the melody, you have an idea of that, right? So sometimes you can kind of fudge your way through something when you have an idea. But in terms of memorizing something, it definitely comes with repetition, practicing it, right? Especially if it's something that is very complicated and involved and requires a lot of work to get it down. Like there are going to be some unison lines in a very complicated tune where you might have memorized, but maybe the rest of the tune you just have to kind of work out. It's definitely definitely like that with a lot of Billy Child's tunes. That's the thing. And in one of the projects that I was in with Billy Childs called Prophecy, you know, it got to a point where, you know, Billy had written tunes, but he didn't have charts for them. You know, he had just came up with them and he'd record them. But he didn't have charts, or some of them were like newer things that, you know, he didn't have time to write out. And so he would just teach it to us at the rehearsal. He would teach it to myself, and Donald Barrett was the drummer. So he would just teach it to us, and then we'd just run it a bunch of times and like, hey, let's just do it. And so repetition is a big thing. It was like that in Peter Erskine's band, Dr. After a certain amount of time, I didn't have to look at my iPad anymore because I'd played it enough. I knew how it all worked, and I felt really comfortable. And we're like, hey, I don't need the iPad anymore. Let's just play. A lot of gigs definitely like that, for sure. And it's really cool when you can do that. When playing my own music, definitely I don't want to be looking at charts just because, I mean, and this is just my opinion too, and it's not always the case. Some people might disagree with it, which is totally fine. But your own original music, you should know. You should know how to play. You should know every single part of it. You should know how to play every single part of it on your instrument. You should know the ins and outs of your tune. All right. And so when I'd play on my gigs with my band, playing my music, I didn't look at anything because I knew everything, especially if I'm the band leader. You know, I'm trying to give, I might have to give a cue or something or whatever, you know. I'm trying to just focus on just playing the music. I don't want to be like looking at a chart when playing my own stuff, you know. That's just my opinion of it. When you see Pat Metheny play, you know, is he looking at charts? He's not. Especially Pat Metheny music, it's crazy. Billy Childs, on his gigs, I've never seen a chart on the music stand on the piano. Never. For all that stuff and the stuff that you guys have heard me play through on some of these live streams where I'm like glued to the chart. But with Billy, he has it all because he wrote it that way. He's written every single part. And for him, it's a lot of it is muscle memory of what he does. Same thing with John Beasley. Any of these cats, you know, that's really how it is. Speaking of music, I'm going to play some music because this is always such a fun part of the live stream where I can just play. You know, I've done a lot of talking here and we've talked about some really cool stuff. And I just want to thank everyone, Doug, for just always tuning in and being so awesome. As always, doing this is just always such a joy. And I always have so much fun and just seeing where this goes and what we can talk about and just the fact that we can all be here at the same time and just talk about bass and just be about playing bass, which is always really cool. And so I'm going to play a few tunes here because why not? I played some George Duke last week. I'm going to play some more George Duke because George is just one of the absolute greatest ever. Hey, I'm looking at my clock right now. It says 11:11. That's really good. 11:11. Yeah. And so it is. So, and George, I know it was the anniversary of his passing like a few days ago. So in honor of George, we'll play a couple of tunes here and then we'll see where we go. So this tune I'm going to play is from his album called The Aura Will Prevail. And this tune in particular has my old mentor and bass teacher Alfonso Johnson playing bass on this. This is from like the mid 70s, maybe early, a little more early, maybe 73, 74. And of course the great Ndugu Chancellor on drums as well, also one of the greatest drummers ever, really. So these are three of the greatest musicians, but except, you know, I'm going to be playing bass on this. So it's just going to be me trying to keep up with these cats here. Some of you might recognize this song, or I'll talk about it after I've played it. But this is a George Duke song called For Love. All right. Haha! Such a fun little kind of space jam for love. And then it was really cool to hear on Thundercat's first album, he did a version of this. For Love I Come, and he like slowed it way down. It has the great Austin Peralta playing keys on there. They kind of start off as like a duo, and then eventually the time kicks in, and that's my good friend Gene Coy playing drums on that, where they just like really get into it. But this is, so it was really cool to hear his version of that. But that's from The Aura Will Prevail. Red, nice to see you. The song summoned you. I figured it would. It would. You know, since I remember you saying that you became such a huge fan of this record. And for some reason, these stopped appearing in my feed. Oh no! If you're on here, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you can be notified anytime I go live, or anytime I put a post, anything on here on my channel. But just understand, every Wednesdays at 2:30 Pacific Standard Time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when I go live here every week. All right, we've been doing this for 29 weeks already, which is really cool. Thank you, Sasha. I'm gonna play another George Duke tune. I'm gonna just kind of bring it down a little. It's a nice little short tune actually that I just absolutely love. Also from the mid 70s. Real cool, nice little tune. Beautiful changes on it. I'm gonna have to actually look at my chart for this. Let's see. This one I've played a number of times on some gigs. This one is called Someday. Just a nice little George tune, since, you know, we're kind of honoring George here, one of the greatest ever. So let's have a go at Someday. Just a sweet little tune with some beautiful changes on there. Of course, George singing so well. But when we would play this, whoever I played this with, I can't remember. It might have been with Rachel Aircraft. When we would play this, we would then after that little vamp, that na 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 na, then we would take it back to the top and just solo over the whole form, because there's some great changes to just solo over. So we would just definitely open it up. So absolutely love that tune. Just beautiful changes in there. And yeah, he read the George appreciation. Count me in. Nice. And let's speaking of like another keyboard player who is very influential to me and to a lot of people. I just when I was playing that first tune, and I was thinking, oh, you know, maybe Chick Corea. And Chick Corea, also one of those incredible musicians that's his music and his playing has just been so influential to me. I love playing Chick Corea tunes, whether it's some of his older tunes like from Tones for Jones Bones, or like some of his later stuff, you know, Electric Band, or even later on like his trio stuff. I've always enjoyed playing Chick Corea tunes, and he's always, for me, had some of the greatest bassists in his bands throughout the years, obviously, with like Steve Swallow, or there's obviously Stanley, Patitucci, Anthony Jackson. Who else was later on? It was Avishai Cohen played. Carlitos, Christian McBride, all these guys. Eddie Gomez, of course. You know, so it might be cool to. I'm gonna play an Electric Band tune here, actually. Let's end with some like super 80s fusion right here. Why not? Come on, let's do this. All right, I haven't done this in quite a while. Let's end with something really epic here, because why not? We appreciate George Duke, and we appreciate Chick Corea, two of my biggest influences, other than people like Herbie Hancock and Joe Zawinul, in terms of keyboard players. But right now, let's get into a Chick Corea tune. Let's take it to the 80s. All right, and this is from the first Electric Band record. This one's King Cockroach. Let's have a go. If that doesn't summarize the 80s for you in a song, then I don't know what does. There's other tunes, but oh man, that was probably the first electric band tune that I heard, and I was just like, what is going on? And I want more of it. that whole record I just absolutely love that first electric band record. Young Patitucci, this is before he was like a name. Obviously, he was playing a lot in LA, but this was before he was who we know as Patitucci. This album really brought out this young cat, and same thing with Dave Weckl as well. And I know that guitar solo in that track was Scott Henderson. And on the other half of the album, it's Carlos Vega. No, sorry, not Carlos Vega. Carlos Vega was a great drummer. Unfortunately, no longer with us. Carlos Rios is the other guitar player on that record. Yeah, Scott Henderson and Carlos Rios, incredible musicians. But just has some great tunes on that. Of course, Got a Match being one of them. But just some of the other ones that I just absolutely love. I really love. But anyway, I think that's all the time we have for today. But I want to thank you all for just hanging out. Great questions, conversations. This has been so great. A really great. I just love these live streams. Everything is definitely different every week as to what we get into and all that, but I definitely really appreciate everyone hanging out here. I know we got one last thing here. Dimitri, thank you so much. Do you want to co-op in melody or listen more to drums to follow and be late in groove? What's your preference? I think it's all relevant to how we play. It depends what the song is, right? It depends what things are. A lot of time, especially if I'm playing with a vocalist who is carrying the melody, and I will follow the vocalist. That's something that I've learned to do. It wasn't always like that. Mainly because when I'm following a vocalist, they're the ones who have a tough job of having to sing all the lyrics and the words. So we want to be able to follow where is comfortable for them. Sure. And at the same time, I'm working with the drummer to ensure that the feel is going in the groove, the pocket, whatever we're playing straight ahead jazz, we're playing R&B, we're playing rock, whatever, is where it needs to be according to how the singer is placing stuff. That's something that is really important. I definitely don't want to be late in the groove. Depending on if, what kind of stuff you're playing. If you're playing that kind of Dilla thing where it's kind of going to be a little, but there's always a pocket thing going on, and especially with a complicated tune like I just played before, there's still a very important pocket and groove aspect to it, especially. Because there has to be, with all those kinds of parts that are going on, there still needs to be the pulse, and it needs to be comfortable of where it is. I'd be interested to know if when they recorded that tune, if they did it to a click, but most likely not. If you're playing with someone like Dave Weckl, who has very impeccable time, you don't need a click. And I couldn't imagine trying to program a click to a tune like that. But at that point, I think they had already been playing those tunes a lot. They had already done tours where they played all those tunes from that first record. They had already done, so they knew that music really well. So they were able to, and I know that's how Chick liked to do a lot of. He would go on the road first, and they could do that back then. They would go on the road first and play all this music, this new music. They'll do a whole tour like that and then come back and do the record, right? Because from what I understand, they like doing that because obviously you bring in new tunes, you're playing it throughout your touring and all that, and you get to add elements, develop it, right? So that when you go into the studio to record it, that's the version that you want to do, as opposed to you record something and then go on touring, which nowadays is more common because in terms of if we're talking about in terms of promotion and promoting a new record, an album, new single or whatever, you release it and then you promote it by touring it and performing it. But the thing is, it's like there's that thing of oh man, I should have done this when I recorded it. This is it, so we'll do it now. And so things start to get a little different, which, is okay as well. But generally, people like to have okay, what's the studio version going to be? Is that the one that they're going to be really satisfied with? The live version's better, that kind of thing. So, but anyway, yeah. Going back, I always like to... when playing, it's always about melody and harmony and rhythm. All right, these are three elements that are very important, especially to us bass players, that we need to always be aware of in any aspect. That's going to influence the way we play, how we interact with the band or whoever we're playing with, and that should always... it shouldn't just be one or the other. It has to be all of that. We need to be sensitive to. All right, and especially with our biggest priority and responsibility being groove and pocket, but also highlighting the harmony. Right. In order to do that, we also need to know how the melody works as well, in order for us to be able to play the groove and the harmony properly. These are three elements that go together to make the whole thing work. You know what I mean? So anyway, great question, and this is why I love talking about all this stuff every single week. Your questions and just anything is so great, and if I can do anything I can do to help you with your bass playing or music making, please reach out to me on social media or through my website, basswithbenjamin.com. And the description box has all my links. I'm now offering 30-minute bass lessons. So if you just want to get in, have 30 minutes where we just focus on something, get straight to the point, we can do that. You want to play for me and get some feedback, we can do that. You want me to show you some stuff, we can do that as well. Anything. All right, so sign up. My courses are down below as well that you can grab right away, as well as my latest transcription, which is a really challenging bass chordal composition, but definitely a great challenge for those of you who want to get into that. Lots of bass resources there. Bass with Benjamin. This is what I do. This is what I'm about. And thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Can't do this without you, because this is so great to have everyone here. Just every single week. It's always different. And again, thank you. Wherever you are in the world, take care, and have a great rest of the week. Be safe, and just enjoy. Find joy in your life, in music, whatever it is, and just go with that. Be kind to each other, all right? Help each other, and let's just enjoy who we are, where we are, all right? And appreciate each other. So thank you again, everyone. All right, everyone. Take care. I'll see you next week.